All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for April 1st, Monday. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, Pat. All right, Clayton, number one at the box office. Big story this weekend. It's the collab. It's Kong x Godzilla teaming up. So we needed to get a collab on this episode of the show. So tonight is going to be the BO Boys X the Ace from Midnight Movie Talk. The Ace Erick Weber is here. Eric, thanks for coming back on the BO Boys for
Oh, it's so much fun. I love talking box office, you guys. Obviously, with award seasons being over, it's pretty much the main focus of what I do, even at MMT. So for you guys, I know this is what you do. It's your bread and butter. So to be
This is
invited
it.
is quite the honor. Thank you.
And award season, how did you do? Did you go 21 for 21? Did you get
Mm.
100% this year
No,
or
no, it wasn't.
close
It
though,
wasn't.
right?
Wasn't a great year. It was, that was weird. It's one of these years I wasn't so dialed in. I mean, I watched some of the movie. I missed a couple movies this year, especially the Netflix movies. You guys know how I feel about Netflix.
We
So
know
it's not.
they should not get nominated. Clayton's
Yeah,
totally on board. I'm
good.
someone who I'm on board, except if Noah Baumbach makes a Netflix movie, it should still be up for
Hmm.
Best Picture. Short of that, yes, don't nominate them.
So
See,
yeah,
that's hypocritical thinking, Pat. I think I love Bradley Cooper, and I was glad Maestro got blanked because it's Netflix. Should be a
yeah,
real release movie in
it,
theaters. That's the
100%.
Oscars.
100%, and they can't play by these rules that it's in 5 theaters in New York, LA, Chicago. We can't do this. They need to play by the rules of every other studio. I just saw a movie from Roadside Attractions. It's in 300 theaters, but at least it's nationwide.
Mhm.
How does Netflix not have it? It's a whole nother story and a whole nother show we could do about that.
Well,
Hmm.
I'll tell you what. There's not going to run into that issue with Godzilla X Kong. Nominate them for all the Oscars next year because they are in theaters. Clayton, before we get into breaking it down, could you give us a plow for the weekend of Friday, March 29th? Give us our top five.
Number one, Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, the collab made $80 million in its opening weekend. Number two, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire plummeted 65%. It made $15.7 million. It stands at $73.4 million in its second weekend. Number three, Dune Part 2 made $11.1 million, holding strong, down only 37%. It had no theater change. It's at $252.3 million in its fifth weekend of release. Number four, Kung Fu Panda 4, $10.2 million. Also a drop in the 30s, 38%. It did lose some theaters, down 223 theaters. It's at $151.6 million in its fourth weekend. And here we go. We were right. Number five, Immaculate,
Mm-hmm.
$3.2 million, down only 39%. It added 8 theaters. It's at $11.1 million in its second weekend. That is your top five.
And Clayton, can I point out at number 8, because I saw you tweeting about this, Eric, Late Night with the Devil, IFC Films made 2.2 million, only dropped 22%. And I'll let you go off on this because you said it all. This is the power of theatrical. To tell us your thoughts on this Late Night with the Devil. The Devil had incredible legs this weekend.
I mean, that is 22% is really something you rarely see, and it speaks to the fact that this is a film that people are talking about. It's the buzz film, right? Have you guys seen it? I like this film a lot.
I've not.
I was thinking I was going to wait for Shutter, but as a BO boy, I can't do it. I got to go see it this
Good.
week in the theater. I got to do it. I got to support.
And that's what people are
I'm excited
doing.
for this.
They're doing exactly what you just said. They're see it's a Shutter film, and they can wait a few weeks if they choose. But because everyone's talking about this film, and it's on
Hmm.
everyone's top of mind, they want to see it, and that's why it's so important for these studios to leave these things as theatrical exclusive films for as long as possible. Not 17 days, not 3 weeks, not even a month. I would say 45 days if I could even
45.
get my best wish. If I could get
Hmm.
that done, I would get that done for every film. That way you drive as many people as possible into the movie theaters to see these things, and you see the result. I mean, only down 22% is something that we just don't see happen, and it speaks to the fact this film is on fire.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. I mean,
now,
I have Shutter, and I want to wait now. I want them to tell me it's not coming to Shutter for 45 days and force me to go to the theater. It's it's some hard love, it's some tough love, but that is what we need right now. Yeah.
Now, Eric, I know there was back in the day, this is old school, and you'll remember this.
Mhm.
Steven Soderbergh released a movie in the theater called Unsane. And he did an interview and he talked about windows. And this was before COVID, all this stuff. And he was talking and he sort of knew that this movie was going to go nowhere. And he thought, we could make this window smaller if something really fails, right? So press the dump button, press
Mhm.
the emergency button, put it on PVOD, try to make some money, right? I agree with that. I agree with the 17-day window should be an emergency. It should be break glass if this thing's a bomb.
Mhm.
That's when 17 days should come into the equation. Otherwise, you leave it at 45, and then for blockbusters, you go to 90,
Mhm. I
right?
mean,
Mhm.
that's the old window, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dune should not be on a television screen for 90 days. And you know what? Make it 120 days because people want to see
Yes.
this movie in the theaters.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
Paramount did with, remember, they did that with Maverick, and look what happened with that film. It drove everybody to movie theaters, including older folks who don't even go to theaters. That's what you do. You force everybody's hand. And the thing is, even though we talk about that 17-day window as an emergency, if the film bombs, well, the problem is you set now a standard where
Mm,
if a film bombs, then you might even have an audience go, well, I'm not going to go see it because I know if it bombs, then I'm going to get it at home in 17 days. I think you
True.
need to get rid of that too. You need to just
yep.
make it minimum 30. If I go into AMC or Regal tomorrow and I'm the new distribution guy and I'm working with the studios, I'm like, here's what we're doing. We're doing 30 days, period. If you don't want to play by that, you cannot show your movies in our theaters. 30 days. And then I might even try to squeeze it longer, but I would start with 30. 45 is really what I'd want. And that's half of what we used to have if we go to even 45. 30 is a third of what we used to have.
And
Right.
Ace,
Right.
you're right, because when you think about anyone but you, if they would have pressed the dump button on that,
Mhm.
they would have fucked up. And
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing. And we're looking at Immaculate, which didn't necessarily bomb because it's a small neon movie,
Mhm.
but this thing also holding in the 30s, and this could be a sleeper. And if they, freaked out and pressed the dump button on these, you're not going to have the theatrical runs that movie had and Immaculate might have.
So
Yeah.
you
Yeah. The
yeah,
studios need a pit bull like the Ace here to go in there and because it's a tough gig
right.
to go up to these studios. I'm saying
Yep.
the theater chains, they need a pit
Mhm.
bull like the Ace to say, this is the way it is. Chomp a cigar, wield a baseball bat. You're not going to use it, but they don't know that. That
That's
is
it.
what the AMC needs.
I say it all the time on MMT. I literally said I would be fantastic. I have no problem telling any of these studios this is what we're doing, and I would
Hmm.
actually start with 45. And the thing is if you play hardball, they're gonna play. They're making so much money. You look at Universal, who's doing that 17-day window. If you told them, listen, from now on you're gonna play 45 or nothing, they're gonna go along with it. The reason that we ended up in the world we're in is because they renegotiated right after COVID, and everyone was freaking out about going to the movie theaters. But now that we have the distance and people are clearly going back to movie theaters, that's
Hmm.
when you go and renegotiate with the studios. You have the power and you have the leverage that you need to get that 45-day window.
Yep, yep. And Clayton mentioned Immaculate. I saw this film on Friday night, and I gotta say, I had a great time. I loved it. I was on board with it the first hour. I'm like, oh, this is fine. Last 20 minutes or so, now I get why the legs are there. And Sydney Sweeney, is she a great actress? Is she our next Meryl Streep? Who knows? But she is a star. And coming out of that movie, people were jazzed up. As soon as I saw it finally on Friday, I felt it. This is going to be a word of mouth movie. It's a movie where audiences came out excited. And you look at that hold. I mean, this is an incredible hold to only drop 39%. It's not a huge opening weekend, but still 39%. I mean, guys, do we have a full on movie star staring us right in the face in Sydney Sweeney? Because the holds, I think, are such a barometer of whether people want to see a star and they want to see Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think so. Absolutely. I mean, there's this talk about Euphoria season 3. Is it happening? Is it not happening? I hope that shit doesn't happen. You know
Yeah.
why?
Don't waste
Because
our time on
enough
that.
with it,
Yeah.
number one. Number
Yeah.
two, we want to be able to only see Zendaya and Sydney
Hmm.
Sweeney on the big screen, right?
Yeah.
I think that the fact that this this third season might never happen is the best thing to happen to those two ladies, because then they are only going to be exclusively on your movie theater screens, and that
Right.
is huge. And I think
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney, this coupled with not getting any sort of blowback from Madam Web. She makes one joke on SNL, everything's copacetic and kosher. Now she's got this movie, which is a passion project for her. People are
Mhm.
responding to it. This is the blooming of a star.
Yeah.
Oh, no
Yeah.
question. I mean, and you look at the fact that you talk about Euphoria season 3. I mean, the bigger these stars get, Zendaya, now Sweeney, and also the kid from Saltburn. What's his name? Good looking kid. He's in that. He's
Jacob
in the show
Elordi.
too, right? Yeah, Jacob Elordi. You've got people who are growing in the space. Elordi, Saltburn, and Elvis. Obviously, Sweeney. What we've seen, and you look at Zendaya. The bigger they get, the less inclined they are to go back to even do Euphoria, because you've got at least 10 episodes a year. I don't watch the show, but I think it's about right, 10. That's a lot.
Probably.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
huge time commitment, because I've said on MMT before, I actually appear in an episode of Euphoria in season 2. We
Oh,
shot a
wow.
scene, in the valley here. I've sometimes are in the background, so it's a thrilling life
Mhm.
here. And we shot forever. I mean, I'm talking about a
Right.
scene that's like a minute and a half. And when you look at what Levinson does with that show, he shoots it like a movie. So for them, it's probably a pain in the ass, and it's easier for them to do these movies. Also, don't forget, the more the seasons as they go on, you get your paycheck goes up with the season, so it becomes more expensive for HBO,
Mhm.
for Warner Brothers, for HBO Max to even produce the show. So I think it's really a benefit for everybody, certainly for us in the theatrical space, that this thing is taking longer to happen. And the longer it stretches out, the more they're going to be inclined to say, forget it. I'm just going to make a movie and then take 6 months off or 3 months off or whatever they want to do. You have more freedom when you make movies than you do if you're locked into a TV show.
Right,
Mhm.
right. I mean, it was always that was the way you graduated from television to movies, and I feel like that's coming back now because we've had the run the last few years of you get demoted from former movie stars to being the lead of a streaming series, and
Mhm.
we're finally getting back. Nature is healing, and we're getting back to where you graduate from television into movies, and then that's where you stay. I don't want to see Sydney Sweeney in an 8 episode Apple series next year. I want to
I
see her in
agree.
movies.
I,
Uh,
I don't even want to, I don't even watch anything. The last show
yeah,
I watch a little Ted Lasso. I think I'm halfway through season 2, and Ozark. I don't watch a lot, but I see every movie I possibly can that's in theaters
yeah.
for sure. So yeah, to your point, let's hope it continues where they end up just in theatrical features.
Ace, have you seen Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Because I mean, I'm looking at this. It wasn't a Morbius drop. Clayton went full Morbius, thought it was going 69, 70%, but 65%.
Close.
I mean, it opened well. It opened to the 45 million worth of people who go see every Ghostbusters movie opening weekend, but it does feel like this is a movie that general audiences didn't really ask for and are not going to be flocking to the next couple of weeks.
65. I mean, listen, we didn't hit 70, but 65 is terrible, right? I mean,
It's terrible.
that's cliff diving. And they lose the PLF screens, obviously, a lot of
Mhm.
them. I think they still had a couple. Maybe they got Prime, but Kong, Godzilla got all that. And so you hurt from that aspect, but it just seems like it's a done franchise, right? This just feels like
Mhm.
the end. It needs to be over. We've done how many now? 3 in the past 10 years ish of Ghostbusters, and it's just time to bury the franchise because the legs aren't here. If the legs were continuing and we were down 35, again, like a Dune every week, it seems like 37, 40, 38. That's crazy. Not in this case. 65 says it's done. It's over. And it's not even doing well overseas. You look at the numbers overseas, it's not even doing that 1-to-1 where, or
Mhm.
in some cases, as you guys know, world international is going to be almost a 2-to-1. So in this case, it's like a 3-to-1 US versus international. That's terrible. So there's really no reason. I don't see it happening. I don't see another Ghostbusters film being made.
And
Yeah, it's such an American franchise. I mean, it's a New York franchise.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I mean, forget Europe. Does this even play outside of New York City? Honestly, and yeah, you were very respectful there, Ace, because you said it was over a few times, but you didn't give it the full. It's over. So I think the
It's
Ghostbusters
over.
people think, yep,
Nope.
there it is. Yeah,
No,
there it is.
no, because it's not. Listen, it's at 108. I'm looking right now at the Sony email. It's at 108.5 worldwide. What was the budget on this? It had to be at least 100 because
Yeah.
you just see it on the screen. It's not with all even the stars' salaries, probably over 100, isn't it?
Yeah, well, here's the problem that you mentioned, and I was going to say this, is that it was higher budgeted than the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't
Mhm.
do that. These
Mhm.
movies, if you try to make another one and it's a higher budget, you're going to get diminishing returns. And Sony's usually really good with budgets. If they do make another one, which they may, you have to chop this budget. You have to cut this budget in
But what do
half.
you do?
I said in the last episode, you cut dead weight. You get rid of the Stranger Thing kids. You get rid of, some of the people that no one wants to see. Podcast, sorry, podcast, you're out of there.
Oh God, please.
Right?
But podcast is not. He's not. It's Bill Murray. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, how much
you
did they
got to
pay
make
him
a
for
hard
that, right?
cut.
Ooh,
Right. It's Bill
No.
Murray. It ain't podcast. It ain't podcast.
I
Yeah,
just
but
want to see him gone from the movie. The kid.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, the budget with these things is that, yes, you cannot have the budgets increase as these decrease. That is bad economics. Even I know that.
But listen, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, it got its lunch eaten because another movie opened up that was basically going for the same audience and the kids' audience and the male audience. I mean, this movie hit every audience. Let's give our props to Godzilla X Kong, the collab. I mean, Clayton went 66 million in our prediction. I went low 60s. Ace, did you see this coming? $80 million
No, God, no. I had it at 54. I thought here's why. Let me explain my reasoning. We've done kaiju. How many
Mhm.
times have we done this? When we had Godzilla 2014, it was new, it was fresh. We hadn't had one since the late 90s, right? So
since
you
the
look
Broderick, yeah.
right. So that makes it exciting to see. We just had Godzilla Kong 2021. In between, we had Godzilla -1. Before that, we had Godzilla King of the Monsters in 19, and then Skull Island. I was like, these people got to be kaiju'd out like me. And then boom, no, they're not. So I think it's two things, right? They're not clearly tired of Godzilla Kong. And also, it speaks to people still want to go to movie theaters. They'll go support something, especially a film that has such a big, exciting title like Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. The average person's like, oh, I've heard of that. I'm going to go check it out. So it speaks to we're in a great space theatrically right now.
Yeah, I mean, what is the Godzilla -1 factor here? Because, we all talked about it. We all kind of thought, oh, maybe more people would be into Godzilla now that it got the artsy cred, it got the Oscar a few weeks ago. But this isn't the reason why this movie did double its opening weekend from 3 years ago. But it seems like that Godzilla -1 really did invigorate the franchise even more than any of us thought it would. I mean, was this the kids? Was this the art crowd? Like, what is the increase here in who went to see it versus who was going to see the last bat? Because Godzilla and Kong, they're all movies that opened 40, 35. The Skull Island Kong opens, I think, low 50s. $80 million. We're talking MCU numbers now.
Mhm.
This movie opened almost as much as Dune 2 did.
Well, Hispanic over-indexed here, Hispanic and Latino. So they came out, but they come out for a lot of movies. So that's that seems to be sort of the trajectory. A lot of people under 25. I do think, and this is what I said when I thought it was going to do 65, which was at the high end of the tracking, is that this is the young people. Young people, this is their thing. Superheroes are not for the under 25 crowd. They're not for anybody anymore, but they're not for the under 25 crowd. This is their thing. And they came out. And I think this is the youth movement, because when you think of the first one that came out in 2017 or even earlier than that, the first Godzilla that had Bryan Cranston, what was that, 2015?
14.
Yeah,
14,
that was
yeah.
pretty
14.
early. Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're
10-year
talking if
anniversary.
somebody is 25 right now, they were 15 back then. So this is a youth movement I'm seeing. I think that is what is happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk Ace to, we mentioned the superheroes, and these capes are dead. If you're not Batman, if you're not Spider-Man, and honestly, if Tom Holland goes away, I don't even know if Spider-Man is a slam dunk. I mean, we've seen Garfield fail with him.
Yep.
So is something like Kong versus Godzilla taking up the space for people that superheroes used to? I mean, this is the team up. People used to want to see Ant-Man's hanging out with Captain America. Now no one gives a flying crap about that. They want to see Godzilla and Kong hang out. They are, to young people, the new superheroes.
And I think we'll also remember this. When you watch a Godzilla Kong, even though in this case you do have to have some knowledge of prior films because you connect, right? But in general, you don't have to have all this additional knowledge gained from watching the shows, from reading the comics, from all this. You can just go in for 2 hours and just escape into the world and not have to do the extra homework. That's important to a lot of people. And I think when you speak to Marvel, they're very lucky, right? They are so lucky to have Deadpool, Wolverine coming up next. If they had any other film in the barrel next, they would be almost dead to rights. It's almost over. And then you have the perfect, oh my God, Kevin Feige's got to be like, we timed this. You guys are going to save the world. And they are. And that film will be massive. You and I both, everybody here knows that's going to be a massive, massive billion-dollar film. But it's not necessarily Marvel. It's Deadpool, it's Wolverine, it's Jackman, and it's Ryan Reynolds. So it's the perfect situation for them. I don't know, though, going back to Godzilla Kong, I don't know if we get this again. Let's say in 3 years we do another collab and it's Godzilla X Kong and another adventure versus Mothra or versus Ghidorah again. I just, at some point, there has to be diminishing returns. That's why I thought this time around we'd get to that. We just had it in 2021. Now, granted, that was the COVID release, right? Right after COVID, the first movie in theaters. So I think that's one of the reasons you saw that movie go much lower than it should. But still, listen, I'm flabbergasted. I did not expect people to be this excited for this film, but clearly they are. And again, theatrically, I'm very excited for that.
And also pretty good reviews coming out of this one for people giving it an A cinema score. I mean, that is good, because here's the thing. If this thing opens to 80 and it's at a B- or something like that, then we know, okay, heavily front loaded. People are still high off the Godzilla Oscar. And yeah, we know we got emails. Kong also won an Oscar, huh? But he didn't just win an Oscar. Okay. So settle the fuck down. But
wow,
I do think,
you're really going after YouTuber Robert Cherryman, who, he said it was absolutely disgusting that we ignored Kong's Oscar, but Clayton took
he said it was he went all Joe Buck on us. He said it was a despicable act, and I'm going just as hard.
Who is this guy? Oh my God.
That's
Robert
what I'm
Cherryman.
saying.
Robert
You know what?
Cherryman 6906.
You're calling him by his name. I think it's the Ace Beyond the show is making me more aggressive.
Good,
I'm really trying to match his energy here. So I think that is what we're seeing here. Let's see what the legs are, here in the next few weeks. That's going to say something. What's his drop going to be? But I mean, the A cinema score, that bodes well for this to do, continuing good sort of business.
And I think what's next? What's even next weekend? Is it Monkey Man and The First Omen? Those are not films that really should do too much damage. I mean, I can't imagine Monkey Man doing more than 10. I mean, just off the top, just thinking about that film, I know that Jordan Peele bought that thing and brought it into Universal versus Netflix, so we thank him for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing the film. But I mean, what's the audience for Monkey Man? Above 10 million, maybe 10 to 15 max. And then First Omen, same kind of thing, right? I don't know. I mean, I feel like we just did this with Immaculate. So I think it should be okay from that standpoint. There's not another film rolling in like Ghostbusters just got steamrolled by Godzilla and Kong.
Yeah, Ghostbusters needed to, and listen, I don't know if there's a world anymore in which a Ghostbusters film is going to do gigantic numbers, but that's really a movie that should have fallen somewhere in January, February, when we had nothing coming out and the Beekeeper is cleaning up. And I think you open Ghostbusters in like first week of February, and at least it has a month to just be the only big movie in theaters. Putting it right before Kong, it was always going to get steamrolled. Maybe no one thought to this level, though.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Pat, I mean, that movie opened to 45 Ghostbusters, and this was expected to maybe do that too. I mean, that is the thing. It's like, yeah, obviously it's a big movie and a big movie right next to each other. The theaters need that. Like, yes. I mean, I'm not against where it was put because no one expected $80 million from the collab. No one.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you're right. 65 was your high. That's as high as I'd seen. I mean, everyone was about in between 50 and 60. And again, because of the reason I told you, I would push it down. But yeah, no one expected it to be this big.
I would say One Obia boy Austin did go up to 70. He did say
Yes, he did.
he went nuts. He asked if we wanted to get nuts, and we said yes, and he said 70. So he was up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that this could be the peak of Godzilla Kong, of the franchise, but I do think they're just characters that resonate right now. People don't care about superheroes, and there's just an affinity for these two guys. And maybe the next one does open bigger. I think right now they got to get right into production on this because people love these two characters in a way that I don't think they have since 1930. I mean, this is you got to capitalize on this.
I'm sure they are. I'm
So,
sure it's probably Warner Brothers doing that tomorrow.
well, Warner Brothers, listen, they are such a tale of two studios because on one hand, you got Zaslav putting Batgirl and Looney Tunes movie in the vault with the Day the Clown Cried, and everyone were all upset about that. But they are, along with Universal, the best studio going right now. I mean, their run this past year, I mean, Wonka, biggest movie of the holiday season, and they roll that right into Dune 2, and they roll that into Godzilla X Kong. I mean, when you're looking at the studios and what they're doing for theaters right now, is Warner Brothers your number one ace, or it feels like it's either them or Universal? I mean, Disney by default.
Those are the two for sure. Yeah, and you think about if you were to rank the studios, for me, it's Warner Brothers, then Universal, probably 1 and 1A, right? They're so close.
Yeah,
and then beyond that, Paramount occasionally, Sony occasionally, Disney is definitely not the place to be recently. I mean, Warner Brothers gets so much shit right for exactly what you said. So many reasons I understand, as certainly from the Zack Snyder fans, they absolutely destroy Zaslav and a lot of decisions made out of that building. But at the same time, no studio takes chances like them. We lost Fox.
Mhm.
Remember, we had Fox, and then Disney took them in, and the banner disappeared, and then we lost a studio that used to make some cool films. And so now you're really stuck with a Warner Brothers Universal as the only properties. And I still go back to a film like Joker. No other studio in Hollywood would have allowed Todd Phillips to make the Joker that he made. Now, I know people are going to have issues with the content. They say it's a combination of Taxi Driver and the comic. What's it called? The old
King Comedy.
Yeah, King Comedy. That's it, right? I understand that. But what happens in that film? At the end of that film, the scissors, and then, of course, the brains blown out on live television. That's, guys, that for a studio to agree to that is insane. And we need more of that. And the fact that Warner Bros., and I know Zaslav wasn't there at the time, but Warner Brothers still had put their badge on that film, and that says so much to me. And when I see that kind of action from a studio, I'm going to celebrate it every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, Ace, I know your time is valuable, your time is limited. I just want to ask you, before you have to hop off, what's exciting you looking ahead the next month? I mean, me and Clayton are big. We're talking challenges, end of April. We think that could be a sleeper hit.
Yep.
What are you excited about the next month or so, or early into the summer? What's piquing your interest right now?
Let me look. Let me get the funny thing is I should know this by now, but I'm telling you, the next movie I know for sure that's coming out that I'm excited for is Deadpool Wolverine, right? Of course. But before that, yeah, I know. Before that, I've got to, Monkey Man, sure. I see all these things. So it's not like a matter
you're
of
gonna see everything.
I'll see literally every single one of these things.
You're going to see Sasquatch Sunset.
Of course I will. I will see
that. You're going to see that.
I'll be at opening night.
I knew the A's.
I love things like that. Civil War, I think that's a film that it'll be a talker for sure, right? And now that Garland says he might be done directing altogether after this, then I think Civil War for sure is a film that could outperform, could be one of A24's biggest films in a long time. You think about A24, they just don't have a lot of huge hits. So this is kind of their first big blockbustery film, and it's sitting there in a good spot in April 12th. Abigail, not really. Sasquatch Sunset, sure, of course. Challengers, you mentioned that. I would say maybe, I don't know. I can't see that going much above 10 to 15 on the opening again, even with Zendaya. I just watched the trailer for the first time, in fact, in front of a movie the other night, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I get it. I understand the audience is going to be a younger audience that watches Euphoria, but I just don't see how that's going to appeal to an older audience. So how do you get that audience to come into that film to get what you're looking for? Like you said, a film that kind of pops above what we expect.
Right. If it was about golf, then maybe the older audience is into it. But
there you go. Exactly.
Well, I think
Tennis is that in between. Older people like tennis, but they love golf. Yeah.
absolutely, they love tennis, and I also think there's a level of the horniness that is gonna bring back some people that are in middle age, maybe they're having some hot flashes, and, they grew up on sort of movies that had some horniness to them, and maybe they're
Right.
deciding, "Hey, I wanna go to the theater and get a little horny." That's
Right.
my take on that.
Yeah.
The three
Yeah.
ways? I don't know. The three ways might be a little much for the older crowd, but will find. Okay, I'm gonna.
Hey, they grew up on Michael Douglas. They grew up on Michael
That's
Douglas.
true.
So
That's true. I will say this before I jet off to get ready for MMT tonight. Is when you look at the film that's going to absolutely outperform me. I'm talking in a big way, in a way that some people aren't even have no idea. It's going to be The Fall Guy. The Fall Guy is
mhm.
going to pop a massive number, and people are going to go, "What?" Just wait. It's setting up perfectly. They're advertising it during March Madness. Universal knows they have a film that's going to resonate with the average moviegoer. It's going to be playing across every demographic. You watch Fall Guy is going to be a massive hit for them.
I
Mhm.
can't wait for that one. I'm so excited. So before you pop off Ace, we're going to put you on the spot right now.
Okay, go.
The BO Boys are going on a world tour. We're stopping in Los Angeles for a live show. We announced it already Tuesday, October 8th, right after Joker 2 comes out.
Right.
And we're putting together the Avengers of box office in LA coming out there. Will the Ace be on stage for
On
BO
stage.
Boys Live in LA? Will
Do you
this
guys know
happen?
where are you going to do it? Do you know yet?
We're going to be at the Yard Theater, east side of LA, near like Echo Park, Silver Lake, East Hollywood, and it's going to be a happening. It's going to be a
Okay,
gigantic show.
I will give you a tentative yes. If it was in
Yeah.
Burbank, I'd say yes. But I'm at the point now where if I have to go beyond 5 minutes from my place, I'm like, no. That's why I see everything at Burbank AMC. I can ride my bike to the theater. I don't even jet across town for any of these things anymore. But yeah, okay. Tentative,
Yeah.
likely yes. Does that work?
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. That's all we
Pencil.
need to advertise. We will advertise on the poster a tentative likely yes
Oh
from
man,
the Ace Eric Weber to be
there we
on
go.
stage at BO Boys
Eric,
Live.
we'll
Uh,
write your name in pencil, and then we'll erase it night of if you don't show up.
That's it. It
yeah,
works
yeah,
for me.
yeah.
All right, guys. A
Yeah.
pleasure
So,
as always.
oh, thank you, Eric
Thank
Weber,
you,
the
Eric.
Ace. Watch Midnight Movie Talk on YouTube. Have a great one, Eric.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Good night.
All right, so Clayton, that was the Ace, Eric Weber, appearing on the BO Boys, and we got a tentative yes about the live
Mhm.
show. This is a gigantic get. Obviously, we've got we haven't announced it yet. We've got a yes from a certain legend, a certain tribal chief that's going to be on stage. Throw your ones up at BO Boys Live, but Ace Eric Weber, he just brings it. He brings the energy,
The
and that was
collab
a great collab.
continues.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
collab
the
continues. So, Clayton, looking at this top 10 again, anything we didn't get to with the Ace that you want to say about Godzilla X Kong? I keep wanting to say versus. They're not fighting. They're hanging out.
No, that is
They're
the
hanging
key.
out. That's the key. Uh,
So, one thing I wanna mention here is that
mhm.
post-track exits reported that a lot of people who went and saw this movie were infrequent moviegoers.
Okay.
So 26% go to the cinema every other month or so, while 22% that attended go a few times a year or less. So
Mhm.
there is something about these characters that are bringing people who don't normally go to the theater to the theater. So
Mhm.
coupled with newbies, young people,
Mhm.
I think this is going to be a franchise that could sustain itself, right?
Okay.
And I think that's a big thing is, infrequent viewers walk up business. These are the things an infrequent moviegoer can become a frequent moviegoer if it's given enough quality
Mhm.
content,
Yeah.
right? And so you're getting people, they probably were at the water cooler, whatever the virtual water cooler is on their Zoom meetings, and they're
Right.
hearing about Dune, and they're like, Dune, I never go to the theater. Maybe I'll see Dune. I don't know. Maybe not. And then they see Godzilla come out and make $80 million, and they're like, "Oh, I got to see this one. This made almost as much as Dune." I do think that that's the sort of thing that we're seeing. More and more infrequent people are going to start going to the theater and become frequent visitors.
Mhm. Yeah, and the thing is, this is what we saw after Barbenheimer. You had so many people who came out to see those two movies, mostly Barbie, but also they went to see Oppenheimer because of Barbie. And they were people who could have gotten. They loved it. They had a great time. They saw two movies. They loved both movies. They ate fresh popcorn. They had a great time at the theater. And then nothing for months afterwards. Basically,
Mhm.
nothing tried to get those people to come back. And we're kind of seeing that in April where Godzilla X Kong, the collab comes out. You get all these people who maybe haven't been to the movies in a long time. And then the following week is the first Omen. And Monkey Man, which I think we all think is going to overperform, but it's a small movie. So, like the Ace said, that movie opens to 10 million. That's a giant win for its budget, and it could be a leggy movie, but it's not. Here's another huge movie opening a week or two later that you're all going to want to see after you saw Godzilla X Kong.
Well, that's why I pushed back a little with your Ghostbusters thing, is
Right,
because,
right.
we need things every weekend, and those
It's
to
true.
me seemed equivalent enough that it wasn't bad scheduling. It just looks
Right,
bad now because
right,
less people wanted to see Ghostbusters than was expected by the studio, and more people wanted to see the collab. So,
right.
I know what you were trying to get at with that, but,
More from
uh
a Ghostbusters point of view of they probably would have had a better total had they opened in February than if they opened right now. But yeah, for the theaters, you want every week to be a huge movie coming out.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
more of a studio thing of just having enough of these movies. I mean, the Ace hit on Fall Guy, and that does kind of feel like the movie for all the people who saw Dune 2 this month, who saw Godzilla X Kong. That'll be the next one where they get the itch again. And I think as we get closer, I'm interested what that projection is going to be because I'm feeling 70, $80 million is what Fall Guy is going to open to.
Oh, it's gonna be a good old-fashioned blockbuster, and I love that, Gosling really had, other than Cena, had the
Hmm.
biggest, buzziest moment at this year's Oscars, which was a well-watched Oscars. It was
Yep.
a really great put together program that whoever produce that Oscars, keep them around, they know what they're doing, okay?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think, you're seeing him singing a song and people are on the Gosling train now. People are thinking, "Oh, this guy's a star. He's a
Yeah.
legitimate star," which of course, he was well known for a very long time, was in big movies, but he has the opportunity to reach that different echelon that he
Hmm.
never has touched with
Yes.
this movie. And that would
Yes.
be important for him and important for theatrical.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Fall Guys are going to be the movie that capitalizes on people having had a good time at Dune 2 and Godzilla X Kong. Yeah, I think Godzilla X Kong, the friendship thing was such a huge selling point. People
Mhm,
wanted to see these two. They've been because they've been fighting for decades. We've
mhm.
had Godzilla versus Kong, a version of that 40 years ago, 50 years ago, whenever that movie was made. So people wanted to finally see them hang out. And the Ace mentioned Deadpool and Wolverine is the name of that movie. Should Disney shift and
Mhm.
change the title of that movie to Deadpool X Wolverine?
They should absolutely
Mhm.
have posters that
Mhm.
are Deadpool, 2 slash marks as an X, and
Yes.
Wolverine. That
I,
is what they should rebrand. Rebrand
yes.
now, okay?
Rebrand
Don't
now. Rebrand
rebrand
now.
like Birds of Prey rebranded when everybody hated that,
Right. Weekend
title.
2. Right.
Don't
Right.
Live, Die, Repeat it, although it is now and always has been Live, Die, Repeat.
Always has been. It's never been anything else.
Rebrand now, Marvel
Rebrand
and
now, Marvel.
Feige. Do one
A-
thing right now.
a- And the X, Godzilla X Kong, is a great title, and the X was perfect. Perfect. If you watch on YouTube, I just did Chef's Kiss, or maybe I did like a token up. I don't know what it is. I'm doing
Yeah, you
multiple
did a
things.
weird, like, smacking your lips on a joint thing, it looked
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah. But the X was perfection. But the X is Wolverine, X Men, like their thing.
Yeah, just put
So
an
if
X
anyone's going to
symbol.
use the X, it should be Deadpool X Wolverine.
Mhm.
Reclaim the X.
Although
Either that,
you're not supposed to pronounce the X, we know this, but it's more fun to. So,
yeah,
Warner Brothers was sending out everything to everyone and said, "Don't say the X, it's not X, blah, blah, blah." You know what? Buzz off. It's fun. It's fun to
right.
say it. Let us say whatever the fuck we want, okay?
Right. It might also be a legal thing. Spike Lee, he might own the X for marketing purposes. Malcolm X, the hat. So they might have to give him a taste, but give Spike Lee a taste. Come on. They made $80 million opening weekend. Deadpool, X Wolverine. If Spike legally gets a taste of the X, give him a taste of the X. But you got to use the X. The X is hot right now. So if
Mhm,
anyone's going to
mhm.
use the X, it is Wolverine. My
Yeah.
God, use the X. So, and just getting back to Immaculate, Clayton, I was, and all the listeners, they lived this journey with me last week. I was going back and forth. Do I see Love Lies Bleeding or do I see Immaculate on date night with my wife? And we went to see Immaculate. And I do think this is going to have great legs going forward because it has got one of those last 20 minutes of a movie that people come out jazzed, they come out talking about it. And that's the kind of thing that leads to repeat business, leads to recommendations because that's what everyone remembers is the last 20 minutes of a movie. And this one gives it to you.
Wanna
X going to give
BO
it to you and Immaculate going to give it to you.
wanna BO senior intern, Christopher, gave us some boots on the ground about this movie, and I think he was the one who sort of pushed you over to Immaculate because I
100%.
said do
Yeah.
Immaculate, and then Christopher said do Immaculate, and you did Immaculate, and, people are getting to the habit. They're getting into the
Right.
habit of seeing Sydney Sweeney on the big screen.
Yes, yes. And listen, we talked about the possibility of it going into the weekend, and it was shown. Sydney Sweeney does not drop. Sydney Sweeney stays firm. And it is another case of when you get to her second, she holds firm. And she
Mhm.
held firm this weekend. That 39% is pretty much no drop. And that is what you could expect from her. What a star. What a star. Um, so Clayton, should we take a look at a couple of emails before we head out tonight? Do you have any emails? There's well, here, I want to go into, we got an email from the great wannabe oh boy Reed, and he sent us some pictures of popcorn buckets. And his headline is Popcorn Bucket Hierarchy. Nobody wants an Aquaman popcorn bucket? Question mark. And sent us from his theater. They had 2 levels of popcorn buckets that you could buy that are, promotional movie items. And there's an Aquaman one that's just like sitting on the bottom shelf there. And here's the thing. Did you know that all of these movies get tie-in movie buckets? I mean, I know Taylor Swift got one. We all know about Dune 2. But I didn't even know that all these movies are getting these proprietary popcorn buckets.
Oh, I see them. I mean, I see them
You see
around
them.
at the theaters. Yeah, I take a look, I sneak a peek. But it
Okay.
really is. I mean, it does show that, for a bucket to cross over into the culture, the movie needs to be anticipate and or a big hit,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
Yeah.
Aquaman
Yeah.
just was not that.
It was not most anticipated movie. All right, Clayton, let's talk about something that we got into a heated battle about on the last episode, which is the Bad Boys 4 trailer. Because we got this email, and the email's titled Bad Boys from Wannabe Oh Boy. He says, actually, Wannabe Oh Bad Boy for Life, Tim. And Tim wrote, I watched the Wannabe Oh Bad Boys, Wannabe Oh Bad Girls, Wannabe Oh Bad People trailer. Looks like a
People.
miss to me, people. But when you divide up the box office earnings, I would like to make a nomination. Martin Lawrence's Veneers deserve up to 32% of the BO earnings, 1 percentage point for every new tooth. So, Clayton, I watched this trailer
All right.
this weekend.
Get
I did
thoughts.
watch it. Um, so I gotta say, I think a thing about this trailer that I think was smart is they managed to get uh uh Joe Pantoliano into the plot of the movie. Because if you remember in Bad Boys for Life, which is the third Bad Boys movie, they kill off Pantoliano's police sergeant character. And it was a smart move for the plot of the third movie, gave it a lot of emotional weight, but then you make a fourth one and one of the most popular characters dead. So they do a thing of, there's tapes of him. They do the Jamie Kennedy in Scream 2 situation where you got tapes
In
of him
Scream
talking.
3, he was killed in Scream 2.
You're right. You're right. So he's got a character that, I mean, probably won't appear more in the movie, much more than he does in the trailer, but at least they give you that hope that we're going to get some good Joey Pants in this movie. So I thought that was helpful. I think that it looks as good as the third one was. Like it's hard for me. You're shaking your head. You're disgusted by this act, by this
The
fourth Bad Boys movie.
slower you talk, the more you're talking yourself into thinking this looks the least bit good. Okay, I don't like to judge people by their looks. Okay, that is not fair, and God does what God does. But when it's man done, like Martin Lawrence is not camera ready. He is not camera ready anymore. Okay.
Is he less camera ready than he was in 3? Because
Yes.
in 3 he wasn't. Okay.
No, Pat, years have gone by.
Okay. COVID
and
happened.
COVID happened. He does not look good. The way he speaks is not the way that a fast-talking comedian speaks. The way he moves is not the way a fast-moving comedian who's known for physical comedy, such as Big Mama's House and Black Knight and
Big
Blue
Mama's
Streak.
House too. Yeah.
And Big Mama's House too. I was getting to that.
Yeah.
It looks sad. It makes people sad. Then you got the Will Smith problem. I do not want to see him anymore. That is my take. So much has happened. So much has happened with this gentleman that I am done. And I cannot.
That's a personal
do not interrupt me. Do not interrupt me, Pat.
That's a personal preference. But how does the trailer make
to my point?
Okay.
I'm getting to my point, Pat.
Wow. The ace really did influence you tonight. You have got a fire in you that the ace lit.
If I feel that way, I cannot be the only person that feels that way. That I am done with this gentleman. I am done. He has done his best work. He has served us well when he served us. And now move on, mosey on into the sunset, my friend, because I have no interest in seeing you. He does none of the jokes land in this. I'm not even sure it's one of those plots that I'm sure there's going to be another trailer and it's whatever.
What about when they have to go to the country music thing and pretend that they're into country music at the end? You don't think that lands?
Listen, okay.
And they start singing Bad Boys.
Here's what I'm going to say.
And they say it's a country song. I don't know.
Michael Bay was never known for his comedy, so the second Bad Boys was pretty unfunny. The first one was funny to a 15-year-old me at the very least. The second one, comedy wasn't great. Same one with the third, even though I know that it wasn't the same it wasn't the same director, it was different directors. This just felt so sweaty and bad that I don't think that it bodes well for this film.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this looks any worse as a trailer than the third one looked. And it really does come down to, you have your personal feelings right now on being done with Will Smith, and maybe other people feel that way. I think maybe other people don't. I definitely think there are things and opinions you could have that you're the only one in the world that has it. I do think that's very possible. We've seen it with other thoughts of yours in your head. You're the only one who has them. But maybe there are other people who are done with him post-slap. But it really does come down to are there young people who they like the third one? Third one's a hit. Are they still into this? And are they still into
No.
viewing Will Smith as a movie star? And this is really going to be the proving ground for him, because if this thing bombs, he is done, because
He's
there's no
done.
safer territory he has right now than a Bad Boys 4.
He couldn't even do an Independence Day sequel and come back for that, because
No,
that
they'll
they
never make
can't get the
another one of
budget
those.
for that.
They'll never make
So
another 4 or 5. No.
my other argument here is that we've seen such a sea change at the theaters since Bad Boys 3 came out. And nothing is safe, nothing is sacred. No franchise is ironclad. This, I think, is going to be just part of that cycle of, we don't want this anymore. This is over. And it's going to be shocking to people. There's going to be a group of people that are going to be shocked when Will Smith gets thrown into the Mel Gibson pile, where he is now doing direct to PVOD action films, right?
Yeah.
That is what is going to happen to Will Smith. And be prepared, people my age and older. It is going to happen. You have to reckon with that. A gentleman who had a weekend named after him, Big Willie Weekend, 4th of July. We celebrated Big Willie Weekend. That is what we knew.
Yes.
That person is gone. That stardom is gone. And you need to live with that. And you need to reckon with the movement of time and the movement of culture. And I believe in you. I believe that you won't calcify and become those people that are terrible. Do not calcify.
Yeah. When you said Mel Gibson, that was a hard thought to allow into my head. Will Smith going to, I mean, the other night I was just flipping around, and I forget which streamer I was on, and there was a Mel Gibson movie that was new to that streamer. I'd never heard of it. It was, and we're not Streamo Boys, but it relates to box office.
Oh, was he playing a shock jock?
He was playing a shock jock. Mel Gibson on the line. And it was a drama in which Mel Gibson is playing a shock jock. And I just started skimming through it, and I watched the last 15 minutes. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And, you know, listen, Mel Gibson had Director Across the Concrete a few years ago. Like, he could still bring it if he needs to. But the thought of Will Smith being in straight Streamo direct, like On the Line, is just such a, it really makes you think about all of our own mortalities when you think of, you know, Will Smith being in whatever the next equivalent of an Expendables movie is. Because that's where we are if Bad Boys Live Free or Die or Ride or Die bombs. That is where Will Smith is going. He's going to be On the Line too. Take over as the shock jock.
Yeah. He's doing sequels. He'll be doing sequels to Mel Gibson action PVOD movies. Or I guess that's not an action movie, but like, you're going to see Will Smith share a screen with Frank Grillo. Okay. That is gonna happen.
Oh my God. Yeah. So just, you know, you mentioned Austin earlier. He sent us his email. My God, did he just nail it? He had Godzilla X Kong, the collab at 70 million, the highest estimates we saw anywhere. He had Ghostbusters going to 16.5. You know, so he had a big drop there. He had the top 5 correct. He had Immaculate having a great hold at 3 million. So wanna be, oh boy, Austin, just, you know, just the next generation of prognosticators. He is up there as one of the greats right now. He is really establishing himself for the future.
I do wonder if he will be able to guess the box office on his future movie roles, because he's also an actor, star of Cabrini, you know. So I do think it's going to be interesting when we have him on the show when one of his movies is opening, and see where his estimates go for that.
Yeah, it's hard to be so close to it. But I mean, if he's going to be both a movie star and a box office prognosticator, you know, it's never been done up to this point to be both at the same time, but he might do it. So he's going to have to figure out that relationship. He also mentioned a movie that we talked about in the preview, the new Liam Neeson action movie in the land of saints and sinners. And we talked about how even the lowest of the low Liam Neeson action movies, they get themselves to 3 million, 3.5 million the last couple of years.
And Pat, what did I say? What did I say on the show?
Oh, you said this would do around 1 million. And Austin.
And what did it do?
He said also he could see it launching under 1 million for the weekend. And this thing opened up at number 11 to $1,056,000. So a hair over 1 million. So you guys nailed it. I mean, this thing, Liam Neeson, not that he was an A+ giant movie star the last few years, but now he's getting into the territory of, will they stop putting these movies in movie theaters?
They might have to.
They might have to. They might have to, because they're not promoting them at all. It's not like there's a marketing spend. But even at this point, the spend of mailing out all the thumb drives to the theaters, I don't know if it's offset by $1 million opening weekend anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. That movie opened in very few theaters, 896 theaters. So that was barely a wide release, the lowest level of wide release.
Open it in 1,800 theaters, it'll make the same amount of money. I just don't. I mean, nobody cared.
Yeah, nobody cared. And let's do a quick one on this. He emailed us a week ago. Boy Tyler said, boys, I saw news today that A Simple Favor 2 is going straight to Prime instead of going to theaters. I know that you want all movies to be shown in theaters, but do you think that this one specifically would be successful? So A Simple Plan was a Paul Feig comedy thriller with Blake Lively and the actress from Pitch Perfect, whose name is slipping my mind right now. If you remember the name of that actress, we saw that movie in the movie theaters a few years ago, Clayton. And of course, A Simple Wish. What the hell is the name of this movie?
Simple Favor.
Simple Favor, of course. Simple
Anna
Favor
Kendrick.
Sequel, Anna Kendrick. So Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively, Paul Feig directed. They're all getting back together to make this sequel, but it's going straight to Prime. Do you have a problem with that? And we're a couple of weeks removed from Roadhouse debuting on Prime. Does this feel like this is a movie that should be opening in movie theaters, or it feels like a TV movie that's going where it should?
Well, that's the thing. It depends on a lot of things. I haven't done research on this, but budget is a huge deal here. My thought is, if you have a high budgeted film, it should go to theaters.
Right.
Now, with these people in it, and Allison Janney is going to be in it,
right.
I'm seeing on Variety.
And Feig is back. And the first one made 53 million domestic. The first one did fine.
So to me, if this is a theatrically budgeted film with theatrical ready stars, then you put it in the theater. There's no reason not to. You do something like they did with the what was it? I'm sorry, Magic Mike's Last Dance, right? That was a sequel that was budgeted for streaming, but at a budget that streamers used to budget their movies, which is going to be go the way of the dodo at some point now. But that movie went to theaters. It should have been better publicized. Obviously, we had this conversation back when that happened. So yes, if this movie would be put in theaters and also publicized and ads bought for it, then it should be in theaters. But if the company decides we're going to give you a small budget, we're going to cut corners, we're not going to promote you, then put it on a streamer.
Yeah. I a movie like this, you just wonder if they just wanted to hang out again together, and it's not even about where it ends up. It's just Feig and Kendrick and Blake Lively. They're like, let's go hang out, get some catering, wherever they put it, and it's less of a movie and more of a hangout situation. So
it's better than making it into a TV series.
100%. All right. So, Clayton, that is all the emails we got. That's all the box office news. Uh, I mean, do we want to make this announcement right now? Because me and you we've got a new live show date. Do we want to announce it now?
Well, you
Are
can't
you
mention it,
ready?
not announce it.
All right. So then I'm going to announce it. New York City, we have got a date. It is going to be Tuesday night, October 22nd. We are going to be down on so I guess this would be Lower East Side. We're going to be at a venue off of Houston Street, Parkside Lounge, great venue in New York City. I mean, this is homecoming. No, this is our hometown show. So we'll put the link up when it's there to buy tickets, but everyone circle the date on your calendar, Tuesday, October 22nd. It's going to be a big Halloween themed show. We'll be days out from Venom 3 opening and days out from Terrifier 3. So those are going to be some of the big movies that we are focusing on at the New York City live show. And we got a big special guest. We're going to multiple special guests, but our chief horror correspondent, Brett from the New Flesh, will be on stage with us at the New York City live show, amongst other big special guests. So this is going to be huge, Clayton. How excited are you for New York City, B.O. Boys, the homecoming?
I mean, greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
So anything in the greatest city of the world is going to be exciting.
Yeah. This is going to be huge. We'll talk a lot more about that over the months to come. But October 22nd, New York City, the B.O. Boys, the homecoming is happening. Of course, we got the LA show on Tuesday night, October 8th. And Boston, we're circling around something right now. So get ready for that announcement. And I think you could guess who's going to be the big special guest on the Boston show. So we'll wait to announce that, but that's coming up soon. Clayton, I mean, I got, this is it. Email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at theboboyspod. Want to be a senior intern? Christopher is killing it on the social media with the videos, the verbal videos, all sorts of videos. Watch us on YouTube, the B.O. Boys channel on YouTube. Of course, the Kirk exclusives on the Kirk Minahan YouTube channel are just gigantic, and every week. So we'll have another one in the next few days there. Read the Substack. Wanna B.O. Junior intern Jack has brought the Substack back. He's just writing up a storm, got a huge following there. That is a place to be, to hang out, to comment, to talk to Wanna B.O. Junior intern Jack. So go to the B.O. Boys Substack and subscribe. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Circle the dates for the live shows in New York and LA. And that's it. That's all I got right now. I am spent. What about you, Clayton? There's nothing left to say, right?
There's nothing left to say.
No. Okay, great.
Except for until next time. We'll smell you
at the bar.